unless you are speaking, and the clerk, Beth, will call the roll.
I will. It doesn't look like we have a quorum. I'm waiting for one more trustee, but I will call the roll. Chair McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Martin,
Yes.
trustee Cates.
Yes.
That's
Trustee
who's
Black.
here now. Oh, trustee Kane is here. Trustee Kane,
Here.
very good.
So we have a quorum, and welcome everybody. And the first item is a student representative discussion, and I'll turn it over to Jeff St. John.
Thank you, Trustee McMahon. So before turning it over to the student, I wanted to share one brief update, and we did communicate this with the students, or at least Camille from USM a while back. Camille brought to our attention Green Zone training available at a couple of our universities to help faculty, students, and staff understand the student veteran experience and the student veteran transition to higher ed, either coming back or coming for the first time. And she made a wonderful case for universalizing that across the system if possible. So I'll be meeting at some point in January or early February with the school certifying officers, the SCOs, who lead veterans services at each of our universities. And we'll just figure out how we can make that training available across the board. But I wanted to thank again the students who come forward on a regular basis and share good ideas like the one that Camille shared. So I'm passing that along as informational to this group. And with that, I would turn to see Tristan's with us, and I see Anna on my screen. Any issues, thoughts here in the depths of finals from our student representatives?
I have nothing in particular. Finals have overtaken my life.
Tristan, you're wearing an ironed shirt and tie during finals week, and I've seen far less impressive outfits among students just desperate to get across the line. So kudos to you. Anything else, Anna?
I am in the same boat as Tristan. Everything is good here, nothing too crazy. Students are just finishing up and trying to get through finals week.
So Anna, if this is encouragement to you and Tristan, after working on the University of Maine campus for the last 16 and a half years, as the fathers with open bed pickup trucks begin to arrive to help transport various materials, which is often needed even during a semester break, and as other vehicles appear loaded or overloaded, occasionally parked outside of regulation zones, you will know that the end of finals week has come. And then as we stop seeing those vehicles, we know that most students have made their way back home. So that's where we are at this point on the calendar.
I would like to vouch for that from ability to turn out of my driveway, which gets a little easier every day this week. Like by Friday, I'll be able to make a left turn out of my driveway in under 20 minutes. But I'll miss the students while they're gone and be happy to welcome them back.
What Trustee Kane is not saying is that parking on the main drag in Orono becomes infinitely easier during those. She can saunter into Pat's Pizza whenever she wants.
But the evenings are much sadder, is what I will also say.
There we go. There we go. Trustee McMahon, I have not received, Heather, I haven't had any other communications from students, recent issues, concerns. So I don't know of anything else that would be coming before the committee today.
Faculty rep discussion. And Jeff, take it again.
I see Lisa LeDuc is with us, and I saw Clyde Ivins here. I think I saw Clyde a minute ago. If he would wave, there he is. So
Tim Surratt is with him.
And Tim Surratt as well. I had the pleasure of seeing.
And Ivan is here too.
Yeah, I saw Ivan. Thank you. Had the pleasure of running into Tim at the Educate Maine annual meeting in Portland on Friday. Please, faculty representatives, anything from any of you?
Well, to reiterate, Jeff, what you congratulate Tristan on, I'm wearing a hoodie. So finals week has me in the casual, even though I'm not teaching on campus, I do have finals in your pace, which I'm still teaching. So yes, I'm also impressed that Tristan's showing up with a tie on the Monday of finals week. I don't have anything specific for faculty reps.
Ivan, Clyde, Tim, anything from any of you for today's discussion?
And Jeff Main is here also.
And Jeff Main from Maine Law.
Yeah, I can. This is Tim Surratt, and my apologies. I'm gonna have to be camera off. I don't have a full picture of it yet, and it's because we haven't had a faculty senate meeting since the November 18th Board of Trustees meeting. But we do have one coming up this Friday, and I know that the changes to board policies 212 and 214, there's been some chatter and some concerns bubbling up about exactly what those changes are going to be, and will they impede student, faculty, president, freedom of speech, and so forth. So I know that conversation is going on. I don't have my arms fully wrapped around it, but I think I'll have a much better idea this coming Friday at the faculty senate meeting, and any information now or this week that you wanted to share with me to share with the faculty senate I think would be helpful.
Could I invite Trustee Alexander to speak to this matter? I know, Barbara, you've been leading the way along with Trustee Flood and Trustee Eames on looking at board policies, and certainly in those two areas relatively recently. Anything you'd like to share with Tim?
Oh, thank you very much. I will just reiterate that the process of amending board policies 212 and 214 is one that's been going on for several months. And our little subgroup of folks met with both the students representatives to the board and with the faculty representatives to the board at the September meeting, I believe, at timing wise. And we sat down and went through these changes. The ones that are of most interest to the faculty, I don't try to suggest that you couldn't be interested in every aspect of both of them, but obviously the most important matter that was brought to our attention in a letter from the faculty folks over a year ago was to get rid of what was viewed as potential restrictions on faculty free speech rights on public policy matters unrelated to the actual operation of the University of Maine system. And we did that, seemingly based on the comments I had months ago, to great support from the faculty representatives. So I'm not quite sure what additional issues might come up, but we have the current plan to bring these proposed red lines, which were publicly provided at the last board meeting, for final approval in January.
Clyde, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair McMahon. So just from a Farmington perspective, we were actually really pleased with the amendments that happened to the policies on free speech, because as Trustee Alexander said, the kind of text that limited certainly what presidents could talk about on their own campuses has been removed and left to their discretion. So we were very happy with that. So that's all I wanted to note.
Thank you. I know there are a few people with open microphones. If you could mute when you're not talking, please. Tim Surratt.
Yeah, well, first I want to thank Trustee Alexander for that explanation. And part of, I think, what may be the issue is we've had a transition from one faculty representative, Patrick Cheek, who was our UMA's faculty rep in September, and I've just recently taken on the position, so that may be a part of the issue. There were several students that spoke at the November 18th meeting in opposition to the changes. And
Mhm.
there was an explanation given by a trustee following that, and I'm forgetting, I'd have to go back to my notes, but could that just be encapsulated now as well? What the students were complaining about and what the response was? Thank you.
Right. I met actually informally with 4 of the students who spoke at the last board meeting specifically about policies 212 and 214. I was in Orono just a couple days ago for what I thought was a very collegial and productive meeting. There was a minor matter. I viewed it as minor. They perhaps did not. Of a word that could be added to make clear that some of their concerns would not restrict speech based merely on subjective views of feelings. And it was made clear to them that was not the intent. And there is a word change that our subgroup is going to take a look at to propose as part of the amendments. But what I would suggest is that those of you who are interested in the student version of that meeting should probably talk to them. But I was very pleased with the meeting, and I think we had a consensus about what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Ivan.
Yes, thank you. No, I don't have anything to report from the Faculty Senate. I haven't been asked to bring anything to your attention, but we did have a meeting in the Maine Business School, and the subject of the new proposed program in master's programs program in business that came up, and if I could speak, then I'll appreciate it.
Okay. Any other faculty concern? If not, let's move to the next agenda item, the one Ivan just spoke about, the new academic program proposal, MS in Business at UMPI. And Jeff St. John, I believe you want to introduce this topic.
Thank you, Trustee McMahon. So trustees and everyone, this proposal developed by President Rice and his team was originally in its own context, but over the course of this entire year, 2024, became part of a broader and more coordinated set of aspirations for business programming across the University of Maine system. President Rice first developed the proposal really almost at the beginning of the year, January, February, originally brought it forward in February to the Chief Academic Officers Council. We started the process of moving beyond that point in the spring, but at my request tabled the proposal for a number of reasons, but in part because there was both a need and an opportunity to coordinate at the level of the provost and in particular at the level of the presidents around what we were doing. As the trustees are aware from previous updates, but I'll try to crystallize it here. We have a couple of aims in mind broadly. One is to maintain at all times and strengthen whenever and wherever possible the MBA program delivered by the University of Maine, the University of Southern Maine. We also have 2 other related business aspirations. One is to grow non-MBA graduate programs in business at USM and elsewhere as faculty expertise, opportunity, and resources allow, to capitalize on the Southern Maine market, New Hampshire and beyond, places where USM traditionally and successfully recruits for students into its business programs. And secondly, to continue growing the very successful portfolio of programs in the Your Pace modality at the University of Maine at Presque Isle. And the program before you today is one that President Rice and his team have identified, again, a year ago as a potentially very strong and successful addition to that portfolio. There is no way to promise anyone at any other university that no student who might have gone to an MBA program or to another program in business somewhere in our system wouldn't wouldn't leave that path to or to go into this MS in Business program at UMPI or choose the MS in Business at UMPI over that other program. But as we've shared repeatedly, and as President Rice and his team have shared, I think very convincingly, the Your Pace programming in general, and also the Your Pace programming in business, we believe, overwhelmingly draws from a different population than our existing programs within the state of Maine, within our system. Out of region, domestically and internationally, are the two greatest sources of students for Your Pace programs. In total, Your Pace programs across all the offerings at UMPI as of fall of 2024 drew fewer than 25% of their students from in-person state of Maine resident enrollments. They were overwhelmingly drawing from out of region and from international sources. So we believe there is room and we believe there is a happy confluence of opportunity and resources to do what we see coming in the next several months and into the following academic year, to bring forward programs like this one, to bring forward dynamic new graduate programs at USM, one of which is in development right now, and making its way through the initial stages of the faculty review process. And we have strong hopes for the growth of business enrollment and business programming to the strengthening of our entire system and to each of the universities in our system. And with that, I'd be happy, Trustee McMahon, to turn it over to President Rice for presentation and any questions.
One distinction. Tell us, what is the difference between an MS in Business and an MBA?
MS and business programs are less common than MBA programs. They tend to be more technical in nature and more applied. So you have an area of focus within business itself, like finance, for instance, or you're a small business owner wanting direct skills in running a business, versus an MBA. And I hesitate to define an MBA with Ivan Manov on the screen, who is an expert in this, but more broadly, an MBA is oriented around leadership and management skills, a broad level development of business skills and acumen for the purpose of producing leaders at the highest levels in various realms of business. So different focus, different populations that UMPI is attempting to attract from this program, distinct from an MBA program.
Okay, thanks. And I'll turn it over to President Rice. Ray Rice.
Thank you. And thank you, Vice Chancellor St. John, for that introduction and for the distinction between an MSB and an MBA, which is an important distinction. My apologies, I'm serving both as president and provost again, even though I'm now officially just a president, as my provost is stuck in the Atlanta airport. I'll be serving in that capacity to answer specific programmatic questions. And happy to be doing that again after 7 years. But let me just talk a little bit about, just for a few minutes, about the purpose of the program in the largest perspective, which is how it fills out the academic portfolio for the competency-based programming at UMPI and the system and the need for that, and then a little bit more about the program itself, which of course you have the proposal before you. So just so that this group is aware, UMPI served a little over 2,400 students over this past fall semester in the Your Pace program. Again, we're seeing 50% semester over semester increases in that regard. The majority of those students, or the largest group of students that we served of those 2,400+ students, were either in business administration, liberal studies programming, or accounting and the undergraduate programs. And so those programs themselves, business administration has seen a 310% increase over the past 8 years. Liberal studies, a 700% increase. Accounting, even though it was just returned in fact to play this role in the Your Pace competency-based programming, 4 years ago sees 50% growth semester over semester. So those are by far the most rapidly growing programs in the academic portfolio. And one of the greatest calls that our admissions specialists get, of course, is what is the next step in regards to graduate programming in competency education. So again, these are students that are increasingly, as Vice Chancellor Jeff St. John said, are from across the United States. This spring, we will actually be serving more students from the Southeast than from the Northeast. So that gives you a sense of how the population continues to diversify in this program. And that only makes logical sense, right? As it grows as a national level program, we'll see groups from other parts of the United States gradually outperform the number of students that we're serving in Maine. Also want to underscore that point that we have consistently, since the formation of this program over 5 years ago, seen very minimal, what we would call competition for students that are looking for traditional-based programs, even traditional-based online programs versus competency programs. All of the research and all of the data we have shows that these are students looking specifically for competency-based programs. It meets the demographics of their needs, which the average age is 43. So these are very different students than the majority of programs in the University of Maine system are providing, particularly in this modality. So these programs were designed really to be competitive with national level institutions. The MSB is one of the more popular programs nationally in competency-based programs. We did significant research both in the design of the program and how the program is delivered to students in preparation for the ITP for this program. Also, we are wanting to ensure that we are able to continue to be competitive within the state and within the region, as there are several, even though there is no MSB program in the University of Maine system, so this would be unique in that regard, but there are several MSB programs at private institutions in the state of Maine and in the New England area. So this is also a critical program in that regard to ensure that our competency-based students are making the choice of continuing forward in University of Maine system competency programs rather than moving into private institutions that offer an MSB. So that's, those are the undergirding reasons in regards to expectations for where enrollments are coming from. I also put down in the proposal what a expectation would be for enrollments. Frankly, it is my hope that that is a conservative estimate, and it's based upon the enrollments we're seeing from the organizational leadership program, which is a little over 100 students a session at this point in time. So I'm expecting to see about half that for when the program launches, although I'm hoping for 100 students when we launch the program in fall 2025. In regards to the program itself, you can see that it's set up in 10 potential concentrations, all stemming from a set of core courses, core competency courses. This would launch in fall 2025 with 4 specific concentrations that are the top priority. The business core courses that are listed, business intelligence, communications, as well as it would be business intelligence, finance, and supply chain management, as well as human resources management are the 4 areas that would be expectations for launch in fall 2025, with the other concentrations coming online within the next 18 months following that. Again, those are concentrations, and you can see that they've all been laid out, including with program learning outcomes and specific outcomes carefully laid out for each one of the concentrations. We've also been very fortunate to hire Dr. Jerry Choi, who has extensive background in developing MSB online programs, as well as competency-based programs, as well as MBA programs. So he's developed both MSB and MBA programs, and is very aware of the distinction between those programs, as was well explained by Jeff St. John. So he's leading the development of the programs. Should also underscore that this has been made possible by the cooperation between the University of Maine at Fort Kent faculty in particular, who cooperated with the development of courses within the undergraduate business administration program. So they've been a very important part of developing this, and are developing a total of 8 of the courses that would be, at least 8 of the courses that would be within this program going forward as well. So it's a cooperating program with faculty that are well-versed in competency education from the University of Maine at Fort Kent as well. Again, my apologies that the original proposal was looking at a spring launch, but that's been moved to a fall 2025 launch for the reasons that were well explained by Dr. St. John. And my thanks for all of those that have been part of those conversations to ensure that this program could get to the point that it is today, that you're seeing it right now. Those were very important conversations. And again, I want to underscore that this really is a crucial graduate program that will help really develop the graduate level portfolio for competency education, to make sure that our system has a robust and competitive portfolio for competency education at a national level, and that again, that this program we feel will really be attractive to not just students meeting the demographics in the program right now in the state of Maine, but particularly nationally as well as internationally. With that, I'm happy to answer specific questions and anything else about this program. And again, my thanks for everyone.
Okay, I'm sure there are a lot of questions. So let's go with trustees first. So any trustees have any questions?
Actually, I do. I'm just very slow on the buttons this morning. President Rice, I'd like to commend you for making this much needed program available. I do have a question, and I'm not very well versed in this area, so I don't know who to address this question to, but for our international students that are currently studying in the United States right now, when they graduate from undergraduate, they have, I believe, a year of OPT if they're non-STEM. There's a lot of business students in this area, and they are going off to graduate programs, and they seem to be going far. University of Kentucky, one namely. And I don't know if there's a requirement. I mean, I'm seeing some of these students have to go in person twice a semester, which is pretty far from the state of Maine. Would this, because this is all online, does this suffice for them being able to do schooling to continue their education, or is there something in the laws of international students when they're beyond that OPT, that 1 year period, that they can't do all online? So I'm a little bit confused about that. But if that wasn't an issue, this would be a great opportunity for those students, this MS program. So can anybody speak to the international student opportunity or?
That's a great question. I'm not an expert on OPT, but you're correct that this is not a program that is designed to give live synchronous instruction for students that would need that modality. So I don't know if Dr. St. John, if you have better information about whether this would serve.
So Kelly, I can say in general terms, but not in specific terms, the following things are true. Ray's already demonstrated a strong track record of serving international students who want an entirely online program in the Your Pace modality. That's true. We also have a number of graduate programs across our universities that are very successful at drawing undergraduates who've completed programs in the same field at those institutions and bringing them forward into their graduate programs with great success. And then the last thing I would say from an accreditation perspective, in most cases, for most of our professional accreditations, you don't want all of your graduate students to have come from your own undergraduate program, and you don't want none of your graduate students to have come from your own undergraduate program, because it says something to your accreditor about the nature of both programs. But having said that, I mean, one strong opportunity for our international students who want graduate education in the YourPace modality would be any one of the suite of programs that UMPI is already offering, and certainly this program as well.
And I guess the one question, would they be allowed to do that and still keep their extended status without having to be in person at some point in time? Because and like I said, I'm not very well versed on it. It just seems that has to happen, that they have to be in person. And I'm not sure if I've got that rule correct or not, but it would definitely be a great opportunity.
Thank you. I just was trying to remember, and because I think in the time that I've been on the board, Presque Isle was approved for its first ever master's program, I think in 2020. Is that a recollection I have that is correct? So
You are correct.
Yeah, I thought it was that fall. And so I was trying to remember and trying to Google, but not successfully, while I'm in this meeting. How many master's programs are you offering now? Will this be your second or third, or is there more? I just don't remember.
This would be the second, and then we have further planned, yes, but this would technically be the second one after the Masters of Organizational Leadership.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was my question.
Chancellor.
Yeah, I just would say to Kelly, we will do some research on that, and there is some expertise at the University of Maine on that topic. If it would assist us in attracting more students, we could do that on a voluntary basis as opposed to a required of all individuals. That may be a way to reach the audience of people that you're talking about. So I can assure you we'll do some additional research based on your question.
President Edmondson.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Vice Chancellor St. John and President Rice for the very collaborative way they've moved this program forward. Early on, there were a few questions from USM faculty about process. They took the time to address those, and our faculty and I am in full support of the work that they're hoping to do with this particular program. President Rice has offered that faculty at USM can teach in the program. I think it's a great opportunity for collaboration. I think they do serve a unique population of students, and so it's interesting to see how the YourPace program is evolving. And I think it provides us with an opportunity, frankly, to think really broadly about business programs and business education across the University of Maine system. At USM, the Portland campus was started as a business school. We recently celebrated the 100th anniversary of our business school at USM, and I think it's just terrific to see how business programs have evolved over that 100-year period. And I think the work that Ray is doing at UMPI and with this program is another opportunity to think about how we offer business programs in new and different ways, given the unique populations of students we hope to serve, and also given the unique and highly qualified faculty who are part of these programs. So thank you for the opportunity to share that. But again, special thanks to Jeff and to Ray for reaching out to me a number of times for their patience and collaboration as we work to move these programs forward.
Thank you, Jackie. Ivan, you had your hand up and you wanted to comment?
Yes, thank you. And let me tell you first that we had a meeting of the faculty, the regular faculty meeting last week. So what I'm going to say is not only my own read of the program, and I do have some experience in graduate programs in business, but the general feeling of the faculty. When we were putting together the Maine MBA, a joint program of the University of Maine and the University of Southern Maine, we were told time and again to collaborate rather than compete. One of the documents had the word collaborate 12 times and 5 times something like not compete. We went through very difficult negotiations with multiple parties, which took over 3 or 4 years to make the current MBA. And as you know, it is a success. It has over 370 students at this point, which is more than double what we had at the University of Maine and at the University of Southern Maine in our separate programs prior to that. My colleagues from the Maine Business School and I were disappointed to hear about this proposal. I know the proposed program is very different, but it has the words masters and business in it. And it will be attractive to certain students. It has overlapping concentrations with our program. And if it passes, when it passes, we'll have to differentiate from it. In this environment, all targets that we have been working towards in the Maine MBA, number of students, number of programs, number of concentrations, they will have to be re-examined. Further, the Maine MBA is working in an institutional arrangement between the University of Maine and the University of Southern Maine, between the faculties of the two schools, which I would describe as fragile. The proposed program lists a faculty member from the University of Southern Maine who currently teaches for the Maine MBA. So I'm not speaking for the University of Southern Maine, but I know it is preparing its own proposal for a master's program. In the meantime, we can barely teach the courses we need to teach with the current faculty resources. So that institutional arrangement will probably have to be reviewed too. And lastly, I'm under no illusion that if a proposal reaches that far, it will likely be approved. You as trustees have the right to do as you see. But I'll be remiss if I don't say that the process and the direction, a process in which we were never involved, does not, I want to phrase it carefully, does not build confidence that these are the right process and direction. Thank you.
Trustee McMahon, I'd be happy to respond to that.
You can take it. To that, please.
Great respect for Professor Manev and for all of his colleagues in all of this. This subject matter, broadly and narrowly, has been a subject of conversation at the Chief Academic Officers Council going back to last February. I met with Dean Harkins in July with President Fernie Mundy's blessing to discuss what we were trying to do with him. And I'm not laying anything on him or on her, but just talking about the steps that have been taken. I've been in regular communication with our provost, sharing updates on this subject throughout the spring, summer, and fall. I've spoken multiple times with President Edmondson, with President Rice, and with President Fernie Mundy on this subject, and all positive conversations, not all easy and not all simple and straightforward. This is an environment where we are doing our level best to ensure that as we add programs and seek new areas of enrollment, we don't compromise either enrollment or, to Ivan's good point, staffing at any of our institutions. The intent to plan, which is the first stage of a program development, went out to the system-wide faculties through the Faculty Governance Council. The beginning of September is the week the semester started, so that we could move forward with this program through the fall. The full proposal then came back to them in mid-October. I received no negative feedback of any kind from any faculty at any of our universities throughout the fall semester in those two stages of the process. And I would also note that I met, as I do every semester, in person whenever possible, and in this case, both cases in person, with the faculty senates of USM and UMaine this fall, I believe both in October. And there were no expressions of concern about this program in any form. So the most recent conversation we've had about this was with the provost last Thursday. President Volin, who is a valued member of that group, shared his thoughts, and they were along the lines of what Professor Manna just shared. But to the point just made, we've come through this over the course of a year, and in particular, moving this more concerted stage of it forward throughout the fall semester. And these are the first expressions in the fall semester of concern that I've heard on this subject. And while I respect them and value them and would never do anything to compromise the standing or status of our land grant in any way, I'm confident that President Rice's proposal is solid in every way, will grow enrollment for our universities, will not undercut existing programs, and I strongly endorse the board's approval of this program. Thank you, Trustee McMahon.
Do any other trustees have comment? Trustee Alexander.
Thank you. I had a question. If it's appropriate, please let me know. But Professor Manoff, are your concerns do you think your concerns are taking into account the somewhat unique nature of the Your Pace program? The students that they serve and that are totally different, I hope you would agree, than those typically entering our four-year academic programs at our various universities. Is that fair to ask if that has been properly considered on your part?
Thank you. Yes, it has been considered. And yes, my colleagues and I know very well it's a very different kind of a program. I have my own thoughts about this program, but that doesn't enter this discussion. If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, what is it? Again, certain people will not read the detail, the fine print, and it's a master's program in business. So this is at the bottom of our concerns.
Thank you. President Rice.
I was just going to actually underscore Trustee Alexander's point about the competency-based nature of this. And we certainly welcome, as this goes forward, any collaborations from any of our peer institutions and the faculty at those institutions. Again, the defining distinction is a competency-based programming. And there are outstanding programs in MSB at institutions across the country, as well as MBA programs in competency-based education across the country. And again, this is, as Dr. Manoff said, this is an MSB program, and it is designed exclusively to be delivered in this modality by instructors that are willing to engage in this modality for its very specific group of constituents.
Thank you. Trustee Cates.
Thank you. Just to follow up on your last point, President Rice, who is likely to teach these courses and where are they now, and how is that going to fit in with their existing academic load?
We have existing faculty that would be are designing and teaching the courses both at my institution and at the University of Maine at Fort Kent, and have hired an additional full-time faculty member to oversee the program, who, as I said, comes with experience in competency education as well as MSBs and MBA programming, and am hiring an additional full-time faculty member just approved to go through the hiring process that would be onboarded in January, and would also be delivering this program. So we do have new faculty to ensure with the experience with across the board of these concentrations, but we're leveraging the existing full-time faculty at multiple institutions to deliver this.
Thanks for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Further question? Seeing none, I will read the text of the proposed resolution. That the Academic and Student Affairs Committee
Wait,
forwards.
David, can I ask one question? I'm sorry. I was still formulating my question when you're moving to, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think I think I understand the difference of the programs. I think the arc of the program that Ivan was talking about did have a very different journey, right? And a lot of us on the board have been here to be a part of that journey and appreciate how much hard work, negotiation, and good faith went into that very difficult challenge, because it was also layered with all of the ups and downs and information, a new world of unified accreditation, right? And I think we have to acknowledge that because now we're in the new world of unified accreditation, which in some ways makes this more straightforward, right? And I think we want to make sure, I do see them as different, but I also think that as part of this, there does need to be some kind of effort to get all these voices in the same room, right? Because to Ivan's point and to Ray's point, we don't want them to be in competition with one another. And I'm hearing very clearly from all of these voices. But I think we need to know that conversation is going to happen, right? To get these brilliant, particularly faculty minds making sure we're pulling in the same direction, recognizing we're offering different things with different targeted students as our stated goal. But I think that this is an opportunity to have a conversation, again, knowing how difficult at times the initial conversation was to get to the UMaine USM agreement. So I can appreciate that. And I just wanted to make sure that was reflected in this conversation before we move this forward, and sort of express my hope that those conversations will continue and that outreach will happen.
Yes,
Trustee Keene, I can promise that I will make that outreach myself, working with the presidents. I'm confident that they probably won't want to have the conversation the first week of January, but we will early in the spring semester bring the faculty of our business programs together, all who would like to participate and have that conversation just as you've outlined. Thank you.
Go.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I feel like I do need to comment here and to particularly underscore Trustee Kane's point. Going forward with this, I feel that further collaboration could be very fruitful, particularly around the areas of the concentrations where there is overlap, as Ivan has explained, and where we ought to be looking together at, even with a very different program with potentially quite different students, looking together at how, for example, the finance concentration, which is, I believe, our biggest MBA concentration, how that can interface with what's being proposed here. Business intelligence has some intersection with business analytics and supply chain management in particular. We have expertise here at UMaine. Going forward, I will propose that we have very robust conversations as soon as we can, maybe not the first week of January, but I would like to have some concrete plans in place for what those collaborations can look like going forward, where we can learn in the MBA about how CBE could maybe help further that program, but at the same time where maybe CBE can draw from some of what we already have in place. So I think there's good openness, at least on my part, to seeing those conversations happen.
Thank you. Further comment? Let me try again to read the motion. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the January 12th, 13th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following resolution. That the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee and approves the Master of Science in Business at the University of Maine at Presque Isle. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
That was
Second.
Trustee
Cates.
Trustee Cates, and seconded by
Me, Trustee Kane.
by Emily. Any further discussion? Beth, could you take the roll?
Yes, Chair McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Alexander,
Yes.
trustee Martin,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
trustee Kemmler,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is a new academic program proposal, BA in Criminal Justice, University of Maine. And Jess and John, you wanted to introduce this topic?
I do, and I'll try to be brief, but I wanted to start, trustees, and I mean this in all seriousness. I seldom use the word heroism in the context of a higher education administration, but Provost Volin has been nothing short of heroic in his work on this proposal, and he's done so in a series of difficult and not always successful conversations involving faculty at the University of Maine and the University of Maine at Presque Isle, as I know Professor Leduc will speak to in a few moments. I just want to say this: Provost Volin has been working on a proposed program in undergraduate criminal justice, which represents, and I can demonstrate it empirically, the biggest missing piece of the University of Maine undergraduate academic portfolio and the current biggest opportunity for out-of-state enrollment growth at the University of Maine on the undergraduate side. It's interesting that Ray made 2 points in introducing his program that are also precisely true of the one that John has put forward. First, that it rounds out an academic portfolio in a very clear and demonstrable way. Secondly, that there is years of evidence from University of Maine admissions staff on the recruiting trail in Massachusetts, in New Jersey, in Connecticut, in Illinois, and all the other places where UMaine each fall goes out and promotes its programs. Why do you not have criminal justice? In the pursuit of this, Provost Volin originally brought this forward under my predecessor, and taking nothing away from John or Robert Placido, two people who I have considerable respect for, they couldn't agree to move it forward. And there's one reason in my interpretation, and John may have a different one. It's that at the time we had other programs face-to-face only, or face-to-face with some online components, but an in-person program for the most part that could have been jeopardized by the development of a criminal justice program at UMaine. The primary thing that's changed with respect to the University of Maine at Presque Isle is the Your Pace modality. The Your Pace modality changes the dynamic of this interaction in significant ways. I do want to say in praise of Lisa Leduc and her colleagues at UMPI, John Volin, Dean Emily Haddad of Arts and Sciences at UMaine, and several faculty in the UMaine Department of Sociology. At my request, when I became interim vice chancellor in November of 2022, Provost Volin and President Rice, who was then President Provost, began a nearly year-and-a-half series of conversations on and off, not continuous, with various personnel, some of them more successful than others, developing the framework of an MOU as President Volin, Provost Volin notes in his process document that he shared as part of his proposal, an MOU that the two sides ultimately decided that neither wanted to sign for, I think, some very good reasons. There is no dearth of collaborative effort here, no dearth of effort to come to an agreement. But in the end, it became clear that both programs, for reasons of academic integrity and strategy, did not want to formally join themselves, which in no way precludes further collaboration, future collaboration, as Provost Volin has repeatedly declared, and I believe him and agree with him on that point. So Lisa's been great, Ray's been great, John's been great, John's dean and faculty have been great. Everyone involved made a Herculean effort to formalize an agreement. When it became clear that that wasn't going to work, we agreed that we would move this forward. This proposal has the same degree of support from me as the one that you just approved. I think it is truly a missing piece for the University of Maine. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form it will harm the University of Maine at Presque Isle or any of our other universities. There is a criminology program that President Edmondson's faculty deliver at the University of Southern Maine. That program is focused on gender, multiculturalism, green criminology, which focuses on, excuse me, the effect of environment on criminal justice and criminology patterns and activities. And there's also a program at the University of Maine at Fort Kent, and a program in justice studies under President Cushman at the University of Maine at Augusta. The justice studies program has a focus that's broader than a traditional criminal justice program. It's got a paralegal dimension. You can study cybercrime. It's not. It will also strongly unlikely to be affected by the University of Maine, which, as I mentioned at the outset, overwhelmingly looking to supply a program attractive to Division I athletes and other out-of-state students, out-of-Maine market students who will be applying to UMaine when they most likely will not be applying to any of our other universities for this program or a comparable program. So with that, Trustee McMahon, I'm happy to turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Provost Sullivan, please introduce your program.
Great. Well, thank you, and appreciate that start, Jeff, very much. So as Jeff said, we are proposing to offer a BA in criminal justice with a proposed launch for next fall. We do believe that the BA in criminal justice will help to address the continued demand for law enforcement and other criminal justice related workforce opportunities. If we look at the Lightcast data, it shows really a strong demand nationally in target occupations for this major, and Maine mirrors that national trend. So we just re-ran the Lightcast data last Thursday, December 12th, and the most recent ones show that in this broad spectrum of jobs in Maine, over the last 12 months, there's over 2,000 jobs in this broad category. In New England, there's over 30,000. And if we actually look at the unique job postings in the last 12 months here in Maine, there was 261 job openings in this area, over 4,400 in New England. So that's roughly around 14% of the total. And this 261 unique job postings represents an increase of over 30% compared to 2021 when we first put this forward. Well, it wasn't the first time, but in a new one that we put forward. So it really does, report kind of highlights, if you will, a strong demand for such positions. If I look at, the overall conferred degrees here in the state of Maine, kind of criminal justice related bachelor degrees, Husson by far has the most. The latest data for degree conferrals is 2023. Husson had 44, they had 44 conferrals, but they had 40% of the overall, conferred degrees in Maine that year, followed by UMA, followed by USM, Thomas, UMPI, Fort Kent, and then finally St. Joe's. In total, there were 109 conferrals in 2023. Again, this last year, we had 261 openings. I would say, and Jeff alluded to this, the criminal justice major is a top 10 major nationally, and it has been for more than a decade. It's often one of the things that our enrollment folks hear when they're out recruiting. It's widely available at the other land-grant universities in New England. We're the only one that really doesn't offer something like this, as well as our peer institutions such as UMass Lowell. So when we look at the students that applied at UMaine and that we lose them to the land grants in New England and then UMass Lowell. So those are our biggest ones. Lowell in 2023 conferred 210 criminal justice degrees, right? So that's almost twice as many as all of Maine, both the publics and the privates. So we really believe that we will attract a large number of out-of-state students. In addition, to our sport management major, we believe that many of our student athletes will be interested in pursuing our criminal justice major, that Jeff also discussed. The program really is designed to complement rather than compete with existing programs across the University of Maine system. Throughout the development of this proposal over the last several years, there have been numerous conversations with colleagues across the system. And in fact, if you look at the proposal, there are courses from every university that have actually been pre-approved, including University of Maine at Farmington that doesn't even have a program in this area. So in Machias as well. So all 6 universities courses have already been pre-approved that our students can choose during their pursuit of the major here in criminal justice. So we actually really believe, rather than pulling students away from other UMS campuses, adding a criminal justice BA program at Maine will really serve as a response to student demand that already exists on our own campus. I think we'll see that, and will be a strong recruitment tool for out-of-state students. When we look at our sport management program that we started about 3 years ago, it currently has over 160 majors, and 50% of those students are out of state. We think the same thing will happen here for criminal justice. So I think in sum, adding a criminal justice BA program at UMaine will serve to strengthen the system's ability to really meet the state and regional employment needs, while adding, to the portfolio of criminal justice and criminology programs in the system, really in providing valuable professional opportunities to students from Maine and out of state. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions. Let's go in the same order again. Trustees first. Trustee Alexander.
Good morning. First, I'd like to say that based on my knowledge, a college degree is not required to enter any of the law enforcement professions in Maine, with the exception of game warden. And that program you're describing here would not meet that criteria, because that's fish and wildlife requirements as well as criminal justice issues. So I'm not raising this point to suggest we should not approve criminal justice degrees at our university systems, but I do think it's important to make clear that a high school degree is sufficient to apply to the Maine State Police or any local police department in our state, or become a guard at a jail. So, and that's where the jobs are, to be blunt. My concern, if I could ask you to look at page 83 and 84 of the diligent book for this particular agenda item. On 83, we have all the courses listed, and I am presuming that those core courses that are not identified as coming from another university course, that those would be taught at U of M, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm racing to 83, 84. Yes, I mean, that what I heard you say is correct.
Right. So, so then if we look at the discussion of what faculty you have available on page 84, I interpreted that, and I'm asking this, as you do not currently have sufficient faculty to actually offer this program as proposed, in terms of what you are suggesting has to be taught at U of M, and that there is a need for additional faculty. And so I'm at the concern about chicken and egg here. Are you going to hire faculty and hope that you get the enrollment that you've projected? And where is that in your budget? Or are you going to try to announce this program as coming next fall? And what faculty will be available to actually offer all of these program listings here?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Alexander. If I could address the first thing that you said, the 261 job openings in the state are all BS or BA and higher. So we didn't pull out jobs that were at the AA level or without a college degree. So I do want to kind of make that just put that to address
okay.
that. As far as the faculty go, we have 4 faculty in sociology alone that have criminal justice background. Like any good department and dean, they say as the program grows, they will need one extra person down the road. We often meet part-time faculty, et cetera, to address this. So actually, I'm not worried about the resources at all. Many programs across the state don't have 4 faculty expertise in this area, and we do. And so that to me is not a concern at all. And I think the department wouldn't be doing its job if it said we don't need any, they're putting a placeholder for down the road. So that is not a concern at all to me, I absolutely think. And also there are a lot of online courses across, the system that I know our students will take advantage of.
But if I could follow up, please.
Yeah, please.
The document says that you cannot offer this program without hiring more faculty. That's what it says on page 84. So I'm trying to figure out if upon approval of this program, you're going to hire more faculty. And if you're not, what courses can be offered and which courses are not available until you do. That it's the detailed planning that seems to be missing here. Most of the new programs that come before us have a budget attached to it, or it clearly documents that existing resources are sufficient to offer the program as proposed. And I find that discrepancy here of concern. I'm not quite sure what the exact intent is.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. If at the most they would need one faculty member, and again, it can be met with part-time faculty and adjuncts. So to me, it's not a concern at all. I think there's a lot of programs, across the universities, not only in the publics but the privates here, that they don't have 4 faculty, with that kind of depth. My very first semester I ever taught, I taught a physiology lab. Which sounds great because I'm a plant physiologist, and it was an animal physiology, so these things I'm not concerned about at all. We all have these deep expertise in areas, and there's many. I'm guessing any one of those criminology faculty members would have no issues taking up these courses, in criminal justice courses. So that to me is not a concern.
Well, it is a concern to me as well, because it's written in a way that tells me you need more faculty to offer the program. That's what it says. And so there's a budget and a clear intent aspect to this. And I'd very much appreciate, before I vote for it, that some clarity be added to the A sheet here that you are not going to hire additional faculty until the growth in the program would justify it. I mean, that's a statement I can live with, but that's not what I'm seeing here, or at least I don't interpret it that way. So that's my recommendation. Would that be possible to do for this vote today?
Yes, so we'd be happy to put that in. When we use net tuition and fee data, we would need 6 out-of-state students or 13 in-state students to more than cover the cost of a social science faculty member, which have very little startup costs. And so, that is to me not a concern. We expect the criminal justice numbers to go up dramatically for out-of-state students, and more than get the 6 out-of-state students to cover a cost of a new faculty member. I'm happy to put that in.
Thank you.
Roger.
Thank you. A couple of questions, John, if I could. First of all, I understand that there are many jobs that do not require a degree in this field. You said that there are 260 jobs at present that do. What types of jobs are we talking about?
So there are many, but like border patrol agents, background specialists, security officers, juvenile corrections officers, criminal investigators, some of the social work, social services areas. I think, and Lisa would be able to tell us many more, but that's a pretty good list. And as Trustee Alexander said, not all these require an undergraduate degree.
Right, but the job listings you talked about are all ones that do require a bachelor's, I think you said?
Those are examples that came through on our Lightcast. So I think it depends exactly specifically. There are certainly many security officer positions that do not require it. Okay. But that draws, from the jobs that have been open, and if it had a requirement for an undergraduate degree, that would have popped up.
Did I hear you, two other quick ones if I could. Did I hear you correctly? Are we the only land grant in the Northeast that does not offer this program?
That's right. And not just in New England, but throughout the Northeast.
Could you talk a little bit more about the number of classes, particularly at the beginning, that you think will be taught by other campuses already offering this degree? And I know we have the other presidents on, but could you summarize what your understanding is of the reaction from those other campuses to this proposal?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say that, you know, in the proposal itself, there's several courses that we've put on. And, you know, I'd ask my fellow provosts to respond. I know, for instance, you know, looking just quickly at UMPI's, you know, course listing this fall, there weren't any online courses in criminal justice. You know, had there been, that would be something that certainly our students would take advantage of. And I do have other courses. Let me take a look here. UMA, as we've put in there, they have, you know, several justice studies courses that are offered online. That I do think those of our students that are more practitioner oriented would very much be interested in many of those. There's in UMPI, of course, has expertise housed that doesn't, you know, that certainly doesn't overlap with our expertise. And UMPI's program, you know, is offering the College of Professional Programs and Education. You know, it's really an interesting, unique aspect that combines kind of the liberal arts based, taught by their doctoral trained faculty, and applications, you know, are taught by their practitioners in the field. So it's a very interesting combination. And there, as we had in the proposal, you know, we've approved like the criminal justice ethics and restorative justice course, and the restorative justice and community-based corrections course. At USM, there are several. Jeff did a really wonderful job kind of explaining that. Ours is a little bit, well, it is different in the fact that it's much more interdisciplinary, and we've proposed that we'll have an elective with options in psychology and political science. But even there's strong collaboration with USM's white collar crime and crimes against the environment courses that we have. And in UMFK, there's been lots of conversations back and forth, but currently a lot of those are not online yet. But certainly, you know, as those move forward, you know, we would be looking to partner. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much.
Any other trustees have questions?
I just have one comment, David.
Sure.
Which is I think it's I have to say, I think one of the most common questions I can think of over all my years of affiliation with the university of like, why don't you have a criminal justice degree? Like I have heard that. I remember hearing that when I was an undergrad. I was a resident assistant. I had a large number of athletes, many of whom have gone on to be police officers in their hometowns. And I think about the number of students I met over time that have said, oh no, I wish I had that, or it's not an unknown gap. And so I appreciate all the hard work, because I know this is complicated. Again, thinking of our prior conversation too, it involves a lot of cross-campus conversation, a lot of economic conversation, a lot of conversation about faculty and faculty load and what do we have for expertise in our region. But I certainly will say, I think this is one of those, if we build it, they will definitely come. And I have no hard research on that, just, you know, anecdotal. So thank you for all this hard work. I can't imagine how complicated it has been just based on this conversation. And I appreciate it.
And Trustee King, just to respond real quickly on the student athletes, it is one of those that is very popular among student athletes, and the NCAA actually requires that Division I undergraduate students, they must indeed be degree seeking at the institution where they play. So our Division I students couldn't even take a criminal justice or criminology major from another university in the system.
Other trustees? I have one question, if I may, John. I understand you won't have articulation agreements with the community colleges because you don't have an approved program. But as you're designing this, are you aware of the fact that there are a lot of associate degree programs in criminal justice out there, and that the preferred route today is to do a third-year certificate within the community college and then online at Hudson, and thereby getting a bachelor's degree? Are you going to emulate that pathway?
Well, it's a great question. I am aware of that. We have not set that up yet. We do know that Hassan is eating our lunch, and we want to definitely respond, whether it's in that way or through our Black Bear Advantage program. We haven't decided yet, Trustee McMahon, but we definitely have it on our radar.
Lisa.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Trustee McMahon. I'm going to turn my video off because my internet, of course, right now is saying it's unstable. So hopefully that will help. I don't know if that's just an urban legend that gives you more internet when you don't have your camera on. So I wanted to answer actually first, before I speak, Trustees Alexander's questions about jobs that do not, law enforcement, specifically jobs that do not require a degree. While that is true, you can't be a law enforcement officer in the state of Maine until you are 21, or if you're 20 and you have completed an associate's degree, you can then become an officer. Additionally, a lot of bigger agencies, and certainly the state police in the state, offer you a pay differential for your amount of education, and you have more opportunities for advancement with a bachelor's degree. At the federal level, which we have a lot of students in the state of Maine that are looking for customs or border patrol work, you start at a GL7, which is a higher pay level if you have a bachelor's degree. And if you're a member of an honor society, which we have at UMPI, the Alpha Phi Sigma Society, which is the only criminal justice honor society in the country under the Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences, you actually move up to a GL9, which is a much higher pay scale. I think sometimes they're making almost more than me with my students when they start. So that probably prefaces, for those of you that may not know, I am a professor of criminal justice at UMPI. I've been teaching here for over 22 years. I guess I do want to say, just to clear some misinformation, I have been incorrectly quoted in various venues when I've been present and not, that I personally do not want UMaine to have a criminal justice program. That is not true. It has never been true. My objections to some of their proposals, including this one, is and always has been that they fail to incorporate any significant collaboration from UMPI. We have a 30-plus-year-old criminal justice program that was created by, has always been led and delivered by PhDs in sociology, including myself. I believe the proposal you have for consideration today should have and could have been checked off as representing a multi-university collaboration. But my sincere attempts to achieve that have not been successful. Both the description of the MOU discussions between UMaine and UMPI over the past year that you see on page 72, and even those that Vice Chancellor St. John described, I don't believe those accurately represent what has happened. So if you'll give me some time to just share brief highlights of my experience. When we started talking to UMaine, UMPI was asking that we could develop a cooperating department. UMaine did not want that. They were not interested. We then started asking for an MOU that would identify 1 or 2 courses per semester or even per academic year that would be guaranteed to be delivered by each campus to the other. Here at UMPI, we offered any of our courses to be either fully online or high flex synchronous, so that it would be live. Students not on our campus would Zoom in live and interact with our students. And I even suggested that we would be willing to have some of our faculty a couple times during the semester, drive down and deliver live in person at UMaine with our UMPI enrolled students to Zoom in from there. This MOU there was no interest in this, to have a guaranteed courses that within the proposal be delivered by UMPI. UMaine told me that UMaine students, and what you see before you is basically this offer that some UMaine students may take some UMPI courses sometime in the future. And we were really looking for a much more granular agreement. This request for specific courses that could be identified on each campus that would regularly be delivered to the other was denied. And I was told that UMaine faculty could not tell a UMaine student that they had to take an UMPI course, which I have to tell you was pretty insulting. Both myself and my colleague, Dr. Lauren Gibson, have PhDs in sociology. Dr. Gibson actually also has an EDD in education with a specialization in assessment. Combined between the two of us, we have over 35 years of teaching experience, specifically teaching criminal justice within a critical intersectional perspective. We are not appropriate to teach as an adjunct. Yet what I'm hearing here today from Provost Volin is, oh yes, we'll use adjuncts to fill it up. I also want to note that the proposal that you have states that the Faculty Governance Council approved this. I am on the FGC. However, I am on medical leave this semester and was not able to attend those meetings. I would have brought up all of these concerns there. This argument that the UMaine program would not pull any students away from UMPI, that may or may not be true. That's not really what I'm concerned about. Our own program, on-campus program, not your PACE, but our on-campus has been declining in enrollment. And this putting up a criminal justice program at UMaine that is collaborative with us would be an opportunity to help with that enrollment. And it would also help UMaine put the program up quickly with less fiscal impact, as noted by Trustee Alexander, that comes with new tenure track hires. So to reiterate, I think should have a criminal justice program. I just do not understand why they are so against working with UMPI to leverage the expertise we already have in the system. This is truly not in the spirit of Unified Ed accreditation. So thank you for indulging me for my explanation. I could say a lot more, but I'll end there. I am going to share in the chat a link that is something that a set of folders and links that I shared with UMaine faculty in September 2023 to illustrate to them the breadth and depth and the structure of our program and when we deliver what and how we can deliver what so that we could meet some of their needs. And of course, I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Jen, do you want to comment on that?
Thank you, Trustee McMahon. Just on 2 points. First, to clarify, Faculty Governance Council doesn't approve anything ever. By its own charter and by its own design and will, it conveys and communicates information about programs, and we discuss matters of concern across the system. But all power of curricular approval authority rests with the individual universities, their faculty bodies. So I just want a friendly correction to the use of the word approve. The Faculty Governance Council has no approval authority, nor does it want to have any by its own charter. Second point I'll make, just to reiterate something I started with at the beginning, and again, nothing but respect for Lisa's efforts in all of this. And I would like the trustees to know the following. You will not find an example of a program that's come forward in the last 5 years where more effort has been made to collaborate than this one. The Provost Volin and then President Provost Rice began meeting on this subject and organizing meetings for people like Professor LeDuc and others at the two universities, as I mentioned, in November of 2022. May of 2024 is when I received a phone call from President Rice, and separately the same week, unbeknownst to one another, from Provost Volin, a phone call from him saying, we have exhausted everything that we can do to try to bring a formal MOU across the finish line. There is principled resistance on both sides and in both directions to developing an MOU for some good reasons, and we're not going to get there. They both, however, suggested that future collaboration was not only likely, but probable in all kinds of ways that Lisa has just described, and in a few others that she didn't get to during her remarks. So I have every confidence that we have taken seriously the two provosts in particular. I credit them and Lisa and her colleague and John's faculty at UMaine, the trustees' charge that we pursue collaboration at all times. At my boss's charge to me that I do the same, working with the provosts and the presidents. We have absolutely done that here. And at the end of the road, we did not arrive at a formal agreement. That does not mean we have not collaborated and produced some very strong future outcomes for partnerships, in my view, not only with UMPI, but with other universities in the system for this program at UMaine. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee McMahon.
Other questions, comments? Barbara.
Thank you. I would like to explore with the trustees a possible approach to this situation that would not involve at this time an approval of this program. I join in the notion that it makes a lot of sense for the University of Maine to have a criminal justice program. So that is not my objective, is to halt that. But in light of the lack of confusion or lack of specificity as to the quality and quantity of faculty involved here, and in light of Professor LeDuc's concerns, I wonder if we could put this off for another session and send the message that we want the program. We want it designed so that it is offered by quality and sufficient faculty, and we'd like them to reopen discussions about how this could be coordinated with an ongoing successful program of this same nature at Professor LeDuc's situation. So is that a possible approach by the trustees that would make sense?
Barbara, I would comment on that. It was a question I raised with Jeff in the meeting planning. And what I'm told is that if it doesn't get approved in January, it won't be in the course catalog or course outline, whatever we call it. So we can't be recruiting students for the August, September 25 start. So it delays for a year if we do that. It was what I was told. And Jeff, did I hear you correctly?
That's accurate. And Trustee Alexander, I feel some personal accountability here because it's my insistence that the two provosts continue the collaborative talks as long as they did that pushed us to where we are now. I am strongly averse to asking them to delay at all, because even a 1 month delay and given where we are in the calendar, given the previous discussions, we will never reach a formal MOU in the space of 4 weeks. If the board wishes to support this program, and I urge that they do, we would need to approve it at the January board meeting. So Provost Volin and the admissions and recruitment team at UMaine can get off to a spring launch and begin bringing in the first cohort of students in the fall. But Trustee McMahon, I do want to say one more thing, and I'm not attempting to speak over Provost Volin here at all, but in response to Trustee Alexander's very understandable concerns about staffing, I do want to say, and I know trustees are aware of this, but it's very common for our larger universities to hire part-time faculty after having gauged what enrollment's going to look like in the coming semester. So just at the University of Maine alone, the math department routinely hires part-time faculty into July, even August, right before the semester begins, because they don't know what their calculus loads are going to be. How many first years are coming in what courses, at what level of calc. It's a summertime. There's actually a group that's led by the provost that meets with the institutional research staff all summer long that tries to figure out calc, chemistry, physics, to support the engineering students, to support nursing students, but also to make sure that loads are accurate and the program is deliverable in the fall semester. So again, Provost Volin is more than capable of saying all this for himself, but I just wanted to offer it in a different way, because while Trustee Alexander's point is spot on, there is a strategic and timely use of part-time faculty as enrollments are identified, and then over time, the department chair comes forward to the dean comes forward to the provost and says, here are my enrollments in this program. We need another full-time tenure stream person or full-time lecturer, and then that argument gets built into the budget process and you go from there. So it is no lack of planning on UMaine's part and no lack of foresight on the provost or anybody else's part. This is routinely the way that staffing of new programs and programs of varying enrollment is handled here at USM, UMA to some extent, because of all the online programs that Joe is dealing with and elsewhere across the system as well. I just wanted to offer that as a friendly response to Trustee Alexander.
Okay, thanks. Emily.
Thank you, David. I think if we can go back 20 minutes or so in our minds to the last proposal that we approved, we did it with the understanding that the conversations are going to continue between UMPI and UMaine about how they can work together. And I think what we've heard in this presentation is the same thing. There's been a ton of work. There's been exhaustive conversations. There are still things left to be resolved, but that we are in a position where inaction will put us behind. And I think that I don't want to be in those conversations. I think we trust the faculty to do that. We trust them to keep those conversations going. And my guess is, as this comes together at the University of Maine, it will become even clearer about where the collaboration can happen. And I think we need to move ahead with this, because I think a full year delay to have the same sort of conversations over and over again would be a mistake. So I hope we can move forward with this today with the understanding that we're sending a very clear message here that we do expect there to be ongoing conversation, ongoing collaboration, and maximizing any opportunity to work together, co-teach things together, offer things as we get this off the ground. Again, no different than the prior conversation.
Thank you. Roger.
Thank you. I'd like to defer to the Chancellor and to Lisa. They may answer my question, but if I could do that, thank you.
You're on mute.
I don't know who's up.
You're up.
Okay. I just want to say that I absolutely understand what Trustee Alexander would like to see. We would like to see it, quite frankly. But this proposal is multiple years old and has met with early opposition, actually going almost as far back as when I got here, discussions of adding this program formally for a number of years as well. And I have to say that I think Jeff has done an outstanding job in trying to close those gaps that exist. And certainly we should understand that some universities want competition in areas, and some universities don't want competition in certain areas. But to have the University of Maine recognized as the only land-grant university in New England that does not have a criminal justice program, and to understand that it is a very desired major amongst students who are active in our NCAA Division I university. If we're not going to meet the needs or the prospective needs of those students as they're making choices about where to go to school, don't be surprised that we lose those individuals. And in many cases, those individuals go to one of the other schools in, land grants in New England or in the Northeast as a choice to play their Division I athletics. I certainly understand that we have outstanding faculty at a number of campuses who can participate, and I would urge that all of our universities cooperate. But what we should not do is create a tool that prevents programs from starting up. We can then dictate or at least counsel very seriously the inclusion of faculty from other campuses, something that I've been talking about since the day I got here. Not giving up on that, nor is Jeff, nor is anyone in the leadership of the system. So I certainly understand, but to lose a year, to lose a recruiting class, or not be able to finish recruiting, and all of those decisions aren't made yet, by the way, would I think be a mistake. Having said that, any level of oversight, any level of review, any level of ongoing and regular reporting could also be worked into this proposal as amended, or as Trustee Alexander has asked to already happen. I'm in agreement in many ways with Trustee Alexander. It's been a goal of ours to bring about, and in some cases we've been very, very successful in bringing about. And in other cases, for whatever reasons, we've been unable to see those kinds of agreements reached. But I think that this is one area that we can make sure will be successful, just given the number of students across the system who are already engaged in this major, but not at the land-grant university.
Thank you. Emily and Roger, you still have your hands up for the questions?
I do not, apologies.
Yeah, I do. But again, I was going to also defer to Lisa before I ask my question because she may have.
You'll do that. Barbara has a hand up as well.
Yeah, I'll preempt Barbara, but I'd like to hear from Lisa first.
Yes, yes.
Well, Chancellor, you still have your hand up? Okay. Lisa, you have a fan club who wants you to talk.
Apparently, I'm going to turn my video off again because I'm being glitchy. My apologies. Now I feel a lot of pressure to answer some unknown questions. I just want to say, yes, it's been since before COVID that this has been worked on. And I have been trying for all of these years to get a concrete commitment that UMPI courses would be included to be delivered by UMPI in the curriculum and vice versa. And I have been unsuccessful in those negotiations with several different folks, both in administration and in faculty at the University of Maine. So the idea that if it's approved, those collaborations will come, I find to be a little naive. I would also say, as far as the admissions schedule for recruiting, it is a very popular program, as stated by the proposal, and I totally agree with that, especially within athletics. Criminal justice has kind of replaced what communications used to be, 20 years ago for athletes. I'm not sure that a little delay in the admissions rotation would be a big effect for it not to be able to go up for the fall. Anyways, I would also answer questions that I didn't answer when I didn't know what they were.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've heard that there have been attempts at an MOU, and that those, for whatever reason, have been unsuccessful. I'm also hearing a commitment to collaborate in getting this up to speed and on the agenda for the fall of 2025. So what I was going to suggest is that I know we don't usually do this, but I'm willing to go forward with a vote on this today and a vote positively, but to put this on the agenda for the summer of 25 for a report, so we can hear what collaboration there has or hasn't been, and be able to judge that, as it may affect how we view this program, but also how we view further programs going forward in the future. So I don't need to have the motion amended here, but I would like to ask the chair for perhaps a commitment that we would at least consider a report on this program in the summer of 2025 to see how it's actually playing out in practice. Thank you.
Jason and John, can we agree to that?
Not only can we agree to it, but I'm happy to report that I have both Provost Vollin's and President Rice's cell phone numbers in my phone. There's nowhere to hide for either of them. And I would promise right now to develop that report in collaboration and consultation with Professor LeDuc and other faculty involved in the process, and share that in whatever venue is appropriate with the board over the summer.
Thank you. Perhaps we get a commitment from the president and and Mr. Volin that they won't change their phone numbers between now and then, and I'll be happy. Thanks.
So, Jeff, are you suggesting that this should not be December, it should be the summer meeting of the ASA?
I would say the summer meeting is perfect. It gives us the spring semester to go back to some of the important issues that Lisa's raised here. And again, I'm happy to use the board's charge on this as a way to make sure that the conversations happen in earnest and seek real commitment on both sides.
So could I request then that you send a memo to the trustees on ASA and the other trustees who are logged on, saying exactly what we're agreeing to, which would be a review of the summer meeting of ASA of the cooperation that has taken place?
I will, Trustee McMahon, and I will include those 2 cell phone numbers in that memo, just so you have them. And again, there's nowhere for them to hide. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara, followed by Kelly, followed by Emily.
Well, I appreciate the good faith proposal by fellow trustee Roger, but I don't agree with it, to be blunt. First of all, the notion that somehow we have to act in January to offer something in the fall, it doesn't speak well to a very nimble institution. If we had a vote on this in March, you could update your catalog and start recruiting. And I would suggest that that reason is, it doesn't look to be a bona fide one with me. But the second one is even more important, and that is, if we approve this program now, the bargaining power of the people who want in on this program are much reduced. And so my idea was to make it clear that the consensus was to approve a U of M program, but that it had to be done by March with more progress made with respect to the integration of the current programs. And I would defer to the bargaining entities as to how that integration might occur that is better than what is currently offered. But I don't think this program is ready to go. It doesn't have sufficient faculty, and it says it needs more faculty. And we really need a more, in light of the history, in light of the problems, in light of the disputes, I think we need to use the board's ability to push forward here in a way that gives some authority to those involved to come to conclusion. And if that doesn't result in any progress by March, I will vote for it. But I do think my approach is one that I would prefer. Thank you.
Kelly?
So I'm in agreement with going forward with this. But just to actually focus just on what we're talking about now, and not actually having conversations about all the programs that we put into place to make sure that the integrity of our process with the expectation of collaboration continues. I think it shouldn't just be reports coming back just on this one issue. It should just be part of the process. That we have reviews to say, how is this working, and are we still working collaboratively? I appreciate the collaborative efforts between the campuses. I think it's something that must be done, and without adding a ridiculous amount of workload on Vice Chancellor St. John and in the system and all the players. It would be a nice conversation to have annually to say, how are our collaborations going, and how is this working? Are we stepping on each other's toes? Because I think we've come a long way, at least in the time that I've been here, and it feels good, and we want to make sure we continue that. And I don't know if we want to just earmark this particular program, but just have the conversations about how are we all playing well in the sandbox? How are we not? And, how do we move forward? So anyway, but I am in agreement with going forward with this today for the reasons that have been cited.
Thanks, Emily?
Thank you, David. I'm also full speed ahead on this. I think, again, we just had a conversation in the last one about where we had a very thoughtful concern raised by a faculty rep about a program at another campus. We approved it and we said, keep working together. These things are going to keep coming together. We're going to keep asking you about how they're coming together. To me, this is no different. The conversation has been long. It has been arduous. We have been hearing about this. We've heard from multiple sources. There is no objection. In fact, which is a little bit different than the last one, there's no objection to the University of Maine having this program. There is a desire for there to be increased collaboration. I feel like that is something that is very achievable and something we have the ability to hold people accountable for without delaying things at the campus level. So I look forward to supporting this motion.
Thank you. Chancellor?
Yes, I just want to take a very short period of time and explain the complexity of Division I athletics under court order and changes that have been negotiated. Athletes can change from university to university during various periods of time. They can offer themselves to receive offers from new universities to go play. We see that a lot of that in football. We see a tremendous amount of that in hockey. We see tremendous amount of that in basketball. When we have to answer to a student who may have done 2 years at a university with this major and say, sorry, we don't have it, and we can't guarantee to you today that we're going to have that in the fall. It's a complexity that never existed until 2 years ago. But it is a complexity that we as a division, actually, I shouldn't say we, the University of Maine as a Division I athletic program has to deal with on a daily basis. So I understand that and nobody wants to bring more cooperation around between faculties, but we also at some point have to tell people what we can and cannot do. And if we cannot tell them that we have the same program that they can transfer into, don't be surprised if they don't join us.
Thanks, Jensen. Emily, you still have your hand up? Okay.
Apparently it's just stuck up today. I apologize.
Okay. Well, let me read the motion. I'll read the text of the proposed resolution. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee forwards this item to the January 12th and 13th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting for approval of the following motion. That the Board of Trustees accepts the recommendation of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee and approves the Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice at the University of Maine. May I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kelly, seconded by Emily. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please take the roll?
Yes, Chair McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Kane,
Yes.
Trustee Alexander,
No, and I apologize, but I need to leave the meeting immediately after this vote. Thank you.
Trustee Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Cates,
Yes.
Trustee Kemmler,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. On the agenda, we have a 10-minute break, but we're running about 30 minutes behind. So I suggest, unless there's a great demand, that we just move straight forward, straight ahead. The next item, Jeff, on UMFK name change.
This is a 2-minute item, Trustee McMahon. Thank you. At the last ASA, President Hedin and I brought forward the name change for the 4-year program in behavioral science, from behavioral science to psychology. We intended also to bring forward the AA. We missed it. We all missed it. So we're bringing it forward today as an informational item to you in order to maintain the coherence of programs. We are also moving behavioral science at the AA level to psychology. Both programs will henceforward be psychology at the University of Maine at Fort Kent. This is an informational item, doesn't require any vote from the trustees.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Pathways to Learning Report. You're up again, Jeff.
Thank you, and we'll try to keep this concise. This is part of our work plan for the committee. I'm happy to say that Jamie Ballinger put together the bulk of this report, working with our colleague Claire Sullivan, who, as you all know, leads micro-credentialing and badging efforts for the University of Maine system. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and ask her to be quick in moving through this portion of the agenda.
Certainly, and thank you all very much. As you know, I am the Director of Academic and Enrollment Initiatives here for the University of Maine, and I am very happy to be presenting to all of you on some of the alternative pathways that we have, the non-traditional pathways to move through your educational journey here at the University of Maine system. Bear with me while I share screen very quickly. Thank you. All right. There we go. All right. So I am here today with our colleague Claire Sullivan, who will be presenting with me here in just a little bit. However, I wanted to give you a quick overview of the ways that we have been bringing unified accreditation to bear as we try to blend the needs of our existing traditional student populations and the emerging needs of new populations, new consumers, new students who are focused on learning in a different way. We do have a changing landscape here at the University of Maine system that we're dealing with, and we are adapting and evolving and using unified accreditation as a tool to help students move through that changing landscape. Many students are choosing to engage with a non-traditional pathway through education because the traditional pathways don't fit the modern students' needs. So we're looking at students who have access barriers, they have affordability barriers, and they need a level of flexibility that a traditional classroom-based 14-week program cannot provide. So these alternative pathways are really creating ways for every student, regardless of where they are in their life, to engage with higher education. Many of these students are currently in the workforce and taking classes while they are working full-time. And these are pathways that really appeal to these adult learners and those students who can't go through a traditional program and allow them to continue their education. Our new pathways are technology driven. They have the emphasis on access and affordability. And we are focusing on 3 different areas here at the University of Maine system. We have online learning opportunities, which you're all familiar with. We have micro-credentials, which Claire will be presenting on here in just a few minutes. And of course, as we're all familiar with after our most recent discussions, we have emerging opportunities for students in competency-based education. But those aren't the only things that we offer that could be considered alternative pathways to education. We're also allowing students participate in partnership programs where perhaps they're working with 2 different universities or even a laboratory to create an alternative pathway. We also have experiential education opportunities. We have boot camps. We have non-degree certificate opportunities. We're not just limited to online CBE and micro-credentials, but those are the 3 that we're focusing on here today. I'm going to take a moment longer to go through this slide with all of you because it is very important. Referencing the chart that you're seeing, you'll notice very quickly, these are our online students compared against our traditional classroom-based students. Overall, the population of students here at the University of Maine system is remaining very similar, within about 1,000 students. However, the share of students in online and CBE programs has been growing steadily year after year. And these are students that we're very interested in serving. They are reflecting of our workforce. They are reflective of our aging demographics here in the state of Maine and throughout New England. We have 163 online programs available now within the University of Maine system, asynchronous, 100% online. Those are broken out between undergraduate and graduate programs. We are offering programs and modalities to meet students' needs, to meet them where they are. Not every course is suited to every style, every pace of learning. And not every student is looking for a traditional 14-week course. Some want to move very rapidly. Some have workforce demands that necessitate them to perhaps only take an 8-week course as opposed to a 14-week course. Our students can now take these online courses from any campus to any campus. If you are a student at the University of Maine and there is an online course at the University of Southern Maine that meets your curriculum or workforce needs, we will find ways to help you engage with that content. And that is the promise of unified accreditation. Our start dates have been aligned for our students across the curriculum. We're still working on summer, but spring and fall are certainly well aligned for students who need to take courses at multiple campuses. And most importantly, the core is available asynchronously online at every campus. Some of them are through partnerships. However, every student at every campus has the chance to take their core curriculum completely online. Now I'm going to turn it over to Claire so that she can talk just a little bit about micro-credentials for all of you.
Thank you, Jamie. The Micro-Credential Initiative has come a long way since the 2019 report to the Board of Trustees. We've awarded close to 7,500 badges to date, with more to come since we're at the end of the semester. In FY24 alone, we awarded 2,729 badges. And the Dawnland Maine Indian History Badge reached the 1,000 earner milestone this year. Next slide. This slide shows the growth of individual learners over time. This past year, we awarded badges to 1,742 individual learners. The UMS Micro-Credential Initiative is part of a nationally recognized credential innovation consortium called UPCEA, and we worked to align the micro-credential goals with the UMS strategic plan, continuing our collaboration across the system. This past year, we set the goal to work toward learner completion of the pathways, and we nearly quadrupled the number of micro-credential completers. What this means is that our learners completed the more rigorous training that is at level 2, and then went on to experiential learning opportunities at level 3, where their competencies were verified against a quality standard that was set by the development team. We also saw a great increase in the number of micro-credentials we developed, from 52 badges in FY21 to 235 badges today. And we continue to innovate. We are creating new ways for different targeted audiences to learn and to develop the potential for new revenue streams in high demand areas such as GIS, climate change, advanced manufacturing, and aquaculture. We're really, really excited to be part of this type of innovative alternative pathways development, and we want to see where we can take this. So I'll turn it back to Jamie and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And lastly, we would like to talk a little bit about competency-based education, CBEs, which we're all familiar with. However, for those of you who are not as familiar with CBE, that is a pathway opportunity where students can move through the curriculum at their own pace, as opposed to being kind of set schedule by a syllabus. The CBE programs are a shining example within the University of Maine system of what can be done with these alternative pathways and the opportunities we have to meet consumer demand using these alternative pathways. We have seen nearly 900% growth in CBE headcounts since 2020. We are continuing to identify and develop opportunities with the University of Maine at Presque Isle on future programs that can continue this level of phenomenal growth with CBE. You just reviewed the Master of Science in Business today. That is just one degree program of the very many that are workforce responsive and consumer responsive for that group of students who are located all across the United States who really need a way to move through their education that's not bound by four walls. However, there continue to be challenges as we explore these new opportunities. Of course, quality assurance is something that's at top of mind constantly for each faculty member, provost, and president who is working with these programs, and they continually review and revise these programs to meet the needs of the student and to meet the needs of their accreditors. Employer recognition is also another challenge that these programs face. However, that one is quickly being mitigated by the quality of these programs and the students who are coming out of them. And of course, there continue to be opportunities for us as well, partnerships, expanded audiences with alternative markets, and we are innovating in this space. We are trying new things, we are experimenting, and we are not afraid to try these new things. So with that, I will turn it back over to the Vice Chancellor to wrap us up very quickly.
Jamie, thank you. Just a couple of points for the trustees. you can see sort of the summary of where we are and where we think we are headed here on this final slide. I do want to say just two things. I would like to call attention to the work that Claire has done with faculty and professional staff system-wide in the arena of microcredentials and badging. Vice Chancellor Dorsey, the Chancellor, and many others, including some people on this call, heard a brief mention of Educate Maine's work in the microcredentialing sphere last Friday at that group's annual meeting in Portland. Claire and her team, again, with faculty across our system, have developed just about double the number of credentials in the short time, comparatively short time that this effort's been underway in our system as Educate Maine has in its statewide network of credentialing. We know that work is growing. We know that the work that JMG is doing in this area is growing, and yet by really any measure, the University of Maine system is leading the way in Maine with strong ties to internships, to job placement, and professional competency for our students as they graduate. I'll also just note quickly that the professional organization that Claire mentioned, UPSEA, is the University Professional and Continuing Education Association. It evolved from what was initially a distance ed group to a professional association that's now strongly involved in microcredentialing. Claire has been recognized regionally and nationally by UPSEA for her work with our faculty and professional staff in this area. So we are moving ahead in all of these areas, and as all the trustees note, we're also discussing other potential academic innovations all the time with them, and we see nothing ahead except more opportunities for more students to join us through a wider and wider array of quality academic pathways. And with that, Jamie, I'd ask if you'd stop the screen share and we could take any questions.
Questions from the trustees. Roger.
Thank you. Jamie, just a question about the badges. I think there are 247 now. What's the process you go through to select a new program for a badge? Is it a specific request from industry? Is it research you've done? How do we get to offering badge 248?
Claire, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So we have several different ways. We put out a call in the fall for mini grants, and we ask for people to take a look at the Maine Economic State Recovery Plan and the Maine Economic Plan and try to match up what are the greatest needs within Maine. And we're looking for specifically for employer engaged revenue, potentially revenue generating micro-credentials for those mini grants. We also have people that just come to us with their ideas. We have a process and a training that they go through on how to develop a micro-credential. So it really depends on where the interest lies, who has the expertise and the time to devote to it. Because if it's faculty members, it's really outside of their tenure and promotion guidelines. So that's a one challenge that we're facing. But we also have a lot of people within the professional staff that Jeff mentioned that are very interested. A lot of the centers are interested at Maine. So we have the Advanced Structures and Composites Center, who's very highly invested in this area. Advanced Manufacturing Center is also considering, they're also in the process of creating multiple micro-credentials, as well as the Darling Marine Center right now.
Thank
you. Other trustees? Tim.
Yes, thank you for the report. I'm a big fan of micro-credentials. I completed the Dawnland credential a few years ago, and I promote it with my future social studies teachers every semester that they completed as well. I think it's excellent. Question I have, I'm just curious, are you seeing in-service, so K-12 educators, or is there any sort of effort to promote micro-credentials or develop micro-credentials that could be promoted to K-12 educators who are looking for continuing education units that they're working toward their 90 credit hours for recertification?
A great question. We're building a cluster, I would say a grouping of teacher education micro-credentials. So we have one inclusive education, We have one being developed on how to create effective IEPs. We have a one on positive behavioral PBIS Tier 1 coaching. We have a mentor, how to mentor younger teachers as they go through the process. There's a mentoring the next generation of teachers. And we even have one, this is for the development of moving people in at the University of Maine at Presque Isle. They have a teachers academy where they're moving students who are interested at the high school level into the teaching profession. Future Teachers Academy, it's called. So we would love to do more with teachers and think of a better way to promote and know what the contact hours are with each of the credentials.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions, concerns, comments? If not, thank you very much. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Jamie, for your work in this area. And next item, strategic plan update, Jeff and Heather.
Thank you, Trustee McMahon, and with the trustees' support, I may save several of the specific updates for our next ASA meeting because some of them have come from questions that Trustee Alexander has shared. So some of them, frankly, are responsive to updates that she's asked for in the recent past. But I will just say a couple of things about the document that you have. I want to stress we have not moved away from what Vice Chancellor Dorsey and I lovingly refer to as the Emily Kane document. The Trustee Kane gloss of the plan that identifies which of the Vice Chancellors effectively each of the goals is assigned to and which Vice Chancellor is responsible for them, that remains the controlling document. But we did put this document together because both Trustee Kane and earlier this fall, Trustee Alexander had said, can we get an update at some point on goals in the plan that had dates attached to them at any point? Trustees will know that early on we achieved several goals well ahead of deadline, and we have other goals where we're past deadline, but we continue to work on them. And I had a couple in particular that I wanted to share candidly with Trustee Alexander, again, to be responsive to her. I will say this, I don't want to get in trouble with my fellow Vice Chancellors because I know we have a plan for reporting on things that are in progress and things that are completed. Speaking only for the academic and student affairs area, however, there are some goals in the plan that, as it turns out, will be things that we're working on an ongoing basis, because the way the trustees organized the wording of the goals, those goals encourage continuous improvement over time. So when we report out in the summer for the strategic plan committee meeting, I will probably frustrate the wonderful AI generated organizational prowess of Vice Chancellor Lowe to some degree by having at least a couple of goals that I say are neither completed nor underway, but are in fact ongoing in the sense of we did it, but we're doing more of it because it turns out to be a best practice for us. We want to keep working in this vein. That's really what I wanted to share today with you, with just a couple of specific updates. First, I will say that in the area of outcomes assessment, which I know is important to the trustees, we have not only UMPI and UMA in their MLT program working very constructively together on verification and pass rates to show that they are meeting the accreditation standards for that jointly delivered program. But we also have, as the trustees know from a previous update from me, a plan in place to conduct system-wide outcomes assessment in the spring for the tourism, hospitality, and outdoor recreation minor offered now at each of our universities. So we have met that goal and will move that goal into the completed but probably ongoing category relatively soon. I also wanted to say that one of our goals has been to improve financial, business, and learning platform models. And as a reminder to the trustees, we have adopted Raptor, which is a transcript reader that went into place in August, and particularly for President Rice, but also for all of our presidents, will reduce significant labor associated with the manual review and handling of transcripts in the offices of student records across the system, but also a bigger fish that, with tremendous support from our registrars and our CIO, Robert Placido, has come into the boat, is Parchment, which is a credentials management platform that really brings student records business operations fully into 2025 and beyond in a way that will be a time saver, a quality enhancer for everything we do in student records across the system. So I wanted to mention that. And then one final update here. I would be remiss and probably also get myself in hot water if I didn't mention that the Transfer Maine agreement that the Chancellor and President Degler signed at the end of July, that work has been launched. Tremendous work from Jamie Ballinger and Heather Ball in my office, and two of their counterparts at the Maine Community College System. We are underway. We have contacted, with help from our MCCS colleagues, the first group of eligible students. And at the initial pass, we had a 10% hit on those students who are interested in a program at our universities. I'm confident, we're all confident, that percentage will grow sharply as students become more familiar with what it is we're offering. We will see students from all of our community colleges flowing into our universities, I believe, at a greater percentage than we've seen in the past. And as Trustee McMahon reminds me on a regular basis, and I'm glad that he does, there are myriad opportunities to help those students move into programs at our universities, including in ways we're not thinking of now, and including students who studied something at a Maine community college that doesn't have an equivalent four-year option at one of our universities. But at all of our universities, we have liberal studies, Bachelor of Arts, general studies programs, or the equivalent, and other fields of study that those students might be interested in. Nothing prevents somebody who studied diesel engine repair at Northern Maine Community College from going into a music program at the University of Southern Maine if that student is academically qualified and wants to move into a music program at USM. So we're trying to capitalize in every way on all the opportunities for students to take advantage of the truly global Transfer Maine agreement. With that, I will just say, before inviting any questions, what you see from our area, academic and student fairs in the summer, will be a set of concrete updates, all the goals completed, all the goals still underway, and all the goals ongoing. And one more goal to share with you. I believe that with some help from the provost, by this coming May of 2025, all of the 50+ goals that sit in the academic and student affairs area of the plan will be off the ground, underway in some form. We only have really a few that we have not yet begun to work on, but by the end of this of May, the 2-year point in the launch and fruition of our plan, I think we will have everything moving forward in some form and to some degree, and there will be nothing that hasn't yet been taken up that the trustees have asked us to do. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, Trustee McMahon.
Questions for Jeff? Emily.
Thank you. I am pre-lower my hand right now, so I don't leave it on. I just wanted to say thanks to Jeff and to everyone for all their hard work on the strategic plan initiatives. It's very clear that it is front and center. It's very clear that it is top of mind across for everybody all the time, and I think has fostered some really awesome collaborations and conversation, and sparked some things that are moving ahead in a way that's inspiring. So I just want to say thank you for the great update. It's great to see that everything will be off the ground soon and that there's not much left to launch. And I look forward to future updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Other questions?
Trustee McMahon, last word on this subject, if it's all right. I do need to credit Heather Ball. I was at the NECHI annual meeting 2 weeks ago, then at a separate NECHI meeting in Massachusetts last Tuesday, then went to Portland for Educate Maine last Friday. And in my absence, Heather made a series of phone calls, email requests for information, updates from our provost, and many others that made the presentation today possible. So I do want to thank Heather and Jamie for all of her work with Claire on the Pathways to Learning report. They really made this section of the agenda come off well today. So thank you all.
And the chair reiterates those comments and thanks. Thank you very much. We're now moving to executive session. And could I have a motion for the meeting to go into executive session under the provisions of 1 MRSA section 4056A to discuss the evaluation of personnel and the consideration and discussion of appointments, evaluations, employment, and duties.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kelly, seconded by Emily. Any discussion? If not, would the clerk please take the roll?
Yes, trustee McMahon,
Yes.
trustee Kane,
Yes.
trustee Martin,
Yes.
trustee Cates,
Yes.
motion carries. I'll move you into exec session.
Okay, we're back in public session. The chair thanks everybody for their participation and wishes everybody a happy holiday season, and we are hereby adjourned.